Welcome to I Am Well podcast. I am your host, Gemma, a nutritionist and mindset coach passionate about all things health and wellness. I'm going to take you on a journey to discovering what health means for you and how to create a life you love living. I'm on a mission to uplift those who feel overwhelmed with what it means to be healthy, reminding you, my listeners, that nutrition is only one aspect of health, and empower you to live your best life on your terms. Let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to today's episode. I am excited for this one. It was a really good conversation and you can tell we are both just so passionate about women's health and women understanding their cycles on a hugely different level too. Understanding them on such an energetic level, and I just can't wait for you all to hear this conversation because it was just so much fun. So listen in and let me know what you think with any ratings or reviews. I would love that, and enjoy. Welcome back to I Am Well podcast. Today I have a very special woman on. I'm very excited. We actually met at a social networking event like 2 weeks ago, I think now. Time has gone by so fast, so I get confused by the days. But we really hit it off because as soon as I heard what she did, I was like, oh my God, like it just, okay. She goes all about the menstrual cycles, all about women's cycles and living a life to that. There is so much more to her teachings though. And I love that because obviously you all know that I teach a fasting lifestyle, but I teach it to women's hormones. And with that comes also teaching a lifestyle to your hormones as well. And so I love that I met someone who was exactly teaching in that way too, because it is so important. And there's so much out there that we forget for women that it's different how we are supposed to live our life compared to men. Like we are so different and there's not a lot on women's health. So I think the more the better that people are teaching this and that women are teaching this. So I'm very excited to have her on today. Her name is Jacquie. Jacquie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank
How
you for
are
having
you?
me.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. You also have a little boy, right?
Yes, two.
Two-year-old boy, yes. Because I remember we were like,
Yes.
oh, we both have boys, and they're both
Yes.
through that stage.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got my 2-year-old boy, and he is just full of emotions at the moment. Like they're just like up, down, up, down. And I'm just like, okay, this because I also have a daughter. So I'm like, okay, this is a little bit different, but this is okay. I'm not
Yeah.
used to it, but it's fine. We're going with it. I just like give him time, give him space to process it all. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on today. I first just wanted to ask, because I love hearing people's backstories, how they get into this. So I don't know I already know a whole lot of what you do, but I know there's even more. So I
Yes.
just kind of want to know, like, I think you've been doing this for about 9 or so years, I think you said. So how did you kind of get into it? Like, and how did this start? And what do you do as well? So that gives a bit more context to it.
Sure. So, yes, I've predominantly been coaching women for 9 years, and I actually initially started with fitness and health transformation. That's quite kind of where I began. I worked as a personal trainer and then a health coach, and then I moved into the feminine embodiment coaching after my own experience with feminine embodiment and actually reclaiming a lot of feminine wisdom that society just isn't. There's no training, there's no education on this stuff. And like you were saying, it's so great that women are doing this and they're finding this information, right? So yeah, I've been doing that. When did I start doing that? Maybe 4 years ago now. 4 years ago is when I transitioned into feminine embodiment, and then preconception. Now I work with women. I work with women in a way that prepares their womb space in what's called conscious conception. So to prepare themselves for conception in a holistic way, not only thinking about the nutrition, which is something that you touch on, but also thinking about all the trauma and the imprints that the womb actually energetically carries. So I work a lot with that, and a lot of connecting women back to their womb space, for the purpose not only for business, for procreating, but also for relationships, and pleasure, and lots of other, there's lots of little rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that in summary, yeah, I work with women to reclaim the feminine wisdom within them. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did
Yeah.
you come about this? If you were a personal trainer, like how did you all of a sudden start getting into the female embodiment?
So when I was a personal trainer, I was also working towards being a professional athlete, a figure bodybuilder, and I attained a figure professional athlete status when I was 27. So I represented Australia twice, in the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic. So
Wow.
yeah, I got to the professional level, and I then went on a downward spiral with my relationship with food, and exercise. And I had anorexia, overactivity, obsession, all the different mental health issues associated with competing. And being a professional athlete, you're expected of yourself to look lean, to look a certain way, to uphold the standard. And that really sent me into a spiral of continuing to stay lean way longer than I expected. And so I ended up staying at, I know you'll know the figures, but I ended up staying at 6% body fat. So this is stage body fat. Well, actually a little bit more, because stage body fat for a figure professional athlete is 4%. So I stayed at 6% for 7 months of 2019. So that's like dire straits. I was basically living through my higher self, like I would get up in the morning and be like, universe, give me the energy to burn through all my calories that I need to burn. I've got my Fitbit on, I'm ready. Like that was my life. And I was so consumed with it. And then the catalyst for all of the change and the feminine reclamation was sitting in a fertility specialist. So a fitness professional, a fellow fitness professional said to me, and no one had actually said this to me. It was very acceptable for me to be super lean, and people just loved it in the gym. And so like that, I guess that external validation just kept fueling the illness. And it was only one fitness professional that said to me, he's like, you don't actually realize how lean you are. You don't realize like how like sick you are. And he didn't use the word sick. And thank you for him to not saying that, but because he was like, you don't really understand how lean you are. I want you to go and see this lady. She's going to check your fertility markers. She's going to check your egg count. She's going to check all these things. And at that point, like it hadn't interested me. I was so laser focused on competing and looking a certain way and upholding the standard of being a professional athlete. And yeah, so I never had I was like, no, don't worry about it. I'm single. I don't have a family. I don't have any worries. I don't even have a pet. Like I didn't even have furniture at that time. I was like living single in fully furnished places, like, so I was just like living this completely self-centered, if you will, lifestyle. And when I went to see this lady and she did all the tests, and she sat me down, and after the results, she called me and she's like, you need to come in. We need to have a chat. And she said to me, like, if you don't get healthy, you're not ever going to have a family. And she just black and white said to me that my egg count was so low, all these factors. I'm not going to like I can't remember all the details, but she showed me all the graphs and all the point zeros and all the things. And she's like, look at, like, this is, you're not going to be able to have a family. And that was the moment that I was like, I need to change, because this is, I actually, on in my heart, I do want a family. And
Yeah.
I do want to procreate. And at that stage, I'd actually met my now partner. I had met him like it was like a week after I'd met him. And she was basically like, when you meet a man and this is that and this is happening and all these things. And, I just, yeah. So I was just like, I don't know if it's him. But you know, that all the little pieces started to fall into place. And from that decision, I was like, the first step was, I need to fully recover myself from mental illness. And I have this yearning to have a child now. So put me in front of every possible certification course, retreat. I will do it all, because I'm going to use the same mindset I used to be a professional athlete to get myself well. And through doing that, I recovered from anorexia, body dysmorphia, all the things within a matter of 4 months, with no psychologist, just me,
Yeah.
just me. And I will absolutely own that, because it was such a journey of just continuing to say yes and seeing what happens, and seeing what, like, if I didn't wear my Fitbit for a weekend, if I would be okay. And if I didn't do this, if I didn't have to go for a walk every day, what would happen? I didn't put on weight. I didn't do, like, I just started to get happier and healthier in myself. And yeah, having this underlying desire that, hey, I do want a family. So I had the marina in at that point. I was a professional athlete. I didn't want a period. I didn't want anything to do with that. I had that in for 5 years, and I was like, I need to get that out. I need to start really reconnecting with my woman, right? And so a huge part of that was, taking that out, and like feeling my womb space again for the first time. It had been maybe, it had probably been like 6 or 7 years since I'd, felt that connection to myself and my womb. And so it was just such a, like, the pieces just started to come in and in. And yeah, just fully, yeah, going into, I did my certification in womb healing. I did, like, I went to a lot of different practitioners, a lot of acupuncture, all the things, because I had this yearning. I was like, I want to have a child. Like, I've now gotten to this point where I was around 30 at that stage. So I'd gotten to that place where, things were feeling happy and healthy. And I knew that my cycle still wasn't, it was like pretty irregular. I had the marina out, and then it was like 20 days, 25 days, 20 days, 26 days. Like, it was just all over the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, it's like, I'm just going to keep leaning in, and I'm going to keep doing this womb healing and womb work, and reclaiming my menstrual cycle as well, and really being on point with the days I'm at and all the things. And it's very much about the days that you're like, I'm ovulating this day, it's going to happen. And then you see blood on the tissue and you're like, no, it didn't happen this month.
Yeah.
But I just kept leaning into that. And yeah,
It's
yeah,
amazing
that's
that you did it all on your own. And like in the 4 months, like when you said 4 months, I was like, what? Wow. Like that's incredible. Like that's insane. Just with everything that you've talked about, I know so many people, so many women are going to relate to this. I know I relate to it. Um, it's just and even with the menstrual cycles, not having it and being okay with that. I know a lot of 20-year-olds go through that because they think it's okay because I don't need to have a baby yet, so it's fine. So
Mm.
now with knowing everything that you know, what would you kind of say to those 20-year-olds that are like, oh, it's okay though, because I don't want a baby now. You know what I mean? Like, why is it so important to have a menstrual cycle?
Well, that is so it's such a pertinent question they're asking me today, because today I actually am running my sacred cycle embodiment course, and
Yeah.
tonight is maiden night. So tonight we are actually exploring that, like what were our 20s like with our menstruation, like what was it like?
Yeah.
And last week we went through the menstruation week, and we're not going in. It's a circle, right? We're actually not going in the order, because we're actually flowing with my cycle. So
Yeah.
I'm the embodiment of the teaching.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, like the relationship with menstruation for the 20-year-olds is their relationship with the blood, and their relationship with the self-discovery that they have had growing up, and the experiences of how they've been taught what the menstrual cycle is. And I think the biggest thing is looking at it like um, embracing all of the ancient wisdom that is the menstrual cycle, and how much of an honor it actually is to have
Mhm.
a menstrual cycle. And rather than pushing it away for convenience sake, even like I don't know if we'll talk about it, but like even the products that we use in menstruation can be blocking, right? And yeah, so that would be my thing. If you're in your 20s, it's like thinking about, you know, what do you know about the menstrual cycle, and how do you know that you're honoring your own body and your own womb space? I guess that would probably be the
Yeah.
question I
But
would ask.
you're right, like, because I grew up always like it was embarrassing to have a period, even though we all knew we had one, like we're all women, you had to really hide it. And like I remember being in high school, always freaked out, worried that I was going to bleed through, that it was going to show up on my dress. I would say to my friends, check my back as soon as I like stood
Yeah.
up. Like it was always like men would obviously know we went through it, but I was always so worried about having it. Like it was that's where the shame really comes around with it. And we grow up with that. And until I've kind of learned through it myself, that's what I grew
Mm.
up with, like still having
Mm.
like getting into my 30s, still having shame around it, which is just so insane the way little bits of society has like kind of fed that into us. And then that's how we've thought, because it's such a natural human experience. It's completely natural, obviously. So
Mm.
imagine what we did back in the day, like back when we didn't have such shame around it. Imagine how it was back then, how it was perceived. So strange. So yeah.
Mm.
So when you brought up your it's called Sacred Cycles Embodiment. So you're
Yes.
holding that tonight. So these are programs that you hold with women. Is it on like
Yes.
a monthly basis or a?
No, it's a 4-week program at the moment that I'm running, and
All right.
it is to embody each phase, like properly understand and embody it.
Okay. Yeah.
And like you just mentioned about like the shame and the trauma around the menstruation, like that's something that we dive deep into last week, and actually like really tuning into some of those shameful times, and actually recollecting them, and um like being in a space, in a container where you can share those kinds of things, just like you're sharing with me right now, like different things that have imprinted in you. And also uh it's like you said, it's a societal thing. Yes, absolutely. It's an intergenerational societal thing, actually.
Yeah.
So we not only our mothers, our grandmothers, and they're probably mothers as well. We have all held this shame, and it's this, big. Uh, I don't want to go into like feminist and patriarchal and everything like that, but it's definitely
Yeah.
been suppression, right? It's definitely been a suppressed feminine. Yeah, it's an art, like an art, I believe, that has just been absolutely shunned and put away. And a lot of that, the shame that we hold also is, you mentioned men as well, is actually them and their reaction to it too, because they have intergenerationally been programmed to believe that it's shameful as well.
Yeah.
So we're just dealing with everybody is ashamed of this thing,
I
right?
see. Yeah.
And yet it's such a beautiful coming home to ourselves if
Yeah.
we let it. And yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. So you talk about the phases within each week of these 4 weeks. So I guess can you kind of touch on the phases for me, or like what's your favorite one, I guess? Do you have a favorite phase? You know?
Sorry. Well, there are each phase is my favorite, like I have to
Yeah. You just lead
have
into
to
each
say that,
one
right?
with like, oh, what do we got this week?
Well, yeah, like I was saying earlier, like this week is the maiden. So we're actually exploring that 20-year-old time, and that between 20 and 30, and the different phases. So we work through maiden, mother, wise, wild woman, and crone. And so a lot of people, when they're doing like menstrual cycle teaching, they talk about the phases as like seasons, or
Yeah.
the scientific names like luteal and all those
Yeah.
things. And that's probably what you do, and I'm not saying that that's anything, there's nothing wrong with that. In
Yeah.
fact, they all kind of layer on each other, right? You can kind of see bits and pieces from each thing. It's like any profiling tool that exists, right? um
No, but I'm
but
fascinated. Tell me how you.
when we talk about it in terms of archetypes, it's something that we can actually embody on a feminine level. So it's not outside of ourselves, right? Seasons are happening outside the door. They're happening out in the sunshine. We can see the seasons happening outside of ourselves, but what can we embody that's inside ourselves? And an archetype is a perfect way that we can actually explore embodying that and going, I am the wise wild woman. So what does this look like this week for me in business, my relationships, my pleasure, all the things? And that's what we delve into in the programs, is like actually going into how this applies to all areas of life, how this wise wild woman can be used to accelerate your business and the different parts. So yeah, like
I actually
wise
love
wild
that. Yeah. I
what
love
wise wild woman, like you can analyze shit out of your business at that point, and it's a great time because you're just so analytical and neurotic that you're harnessing that, instead of being like, I'm ashamed of PMS. And that when we did that week, we dove deeply onto PMS and the whole label of it, right?
yeah.
There's obviously it's a scientific thing, it totally exists,
Yeah.
and medically, absolutely. However, it's been overused so much that you can go and type in PMS and you will get 1,000 results
Yeah.
that send
Absolutely.
you to, hey, if you want to reduce your symptoms, take this pill, or do this thing, right? It's like, take action now. Suppress those feelings, suppress that analytical, neurotic person, or suppress that, and don't actually use it to your advantage. So I'm definitely all about embodying what that archetype actually means for us as women, and how we can use that to accelerate different areas of our lives, and actually use it in a way that we reclaim the wisdom within us, and we're working away from the suppression.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, right? Because like when I teach the hormones and the phases,
Mm.
I teach
Mm.
it as if like they're messengers of the body, like your hormones. And when hormones are giving us a symptom, we're so quick to villainize them and be like, "Oh, my bloody womanly
Shut it
hormones."
down.
Yeah,
Yeah, shut it down. Yeah.
they're
Take
messengers. They're
action
telling us
now.
something. Yeah. And it'll be like, yeah, I would have got taught, yeah, just go take a Panadol, just go take a, something and painkiller just to help it stop, just to shut it down. Exactly. Or why am I feeling so depressed? I must have depression. I must,
Yes.
go see the doctor and get on
Yes.
medication. And it's just like, yeah, that's happening for a reason. Your hormones are telling you something, and we have been kind of taught or programmed not to listen. Like
Yes.
it's easier to shut it down.
Absolutely.
So I love the names that you give and the inner workings. Like it's incredible. It's amazing what you do. And I think it's just obviously it's helping so many women. Something I did experience myself. I recently went and did like womb hara, because I had
Yes.
someone on here that did taught womb hara, and I loved our conversation. And I was like, I'm gonna go try this, and it was I don't even know how to give the experience, but this was just such a spiritual and I don't even know how to describe it, but such an awakening that I loved from this appointment. And I've seen that you do a womb healing as well. So is this to help women with trauma as well, like the past traumas? Can that help open up through womb healing as well? Like I know you were talking about your own trauma that you went through with over exercising and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can it help with just those sorts of trauma, or does it need to be a deeper trauma, or doesn't matter the sorts of trauma that you have,
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's big or small. Trauma is like, I don't know how much of the like trauma informed that you know about, but I'm a trauma informed coach as well, or certified.
Yeah.
So trauma is held in the body. It doesn't matter whether it's small or large. It could be, someone pushing you over, or something really small when you were 5, or something, or a huge trauma, right? It could be anything that's happened to you. And the womb, just like the body, the womb holds the score, right? It's actually holding, like, it doesn't only hold on to, it holds on to past relationships, past sexual partners, past, yeah, there's a lot of other things that like the relationship with food as well. That's a more of an imprint of like not good enough, right? It's like this not good enough that feeds a lot of eating disorders that I've come across. And yeah, that's to answer your question. Womb healing is really anything that's going into the womb and clearing and cleansing for the purpose of like retain more of a homeostasis in the womb, and more of a and preparing it in a way for, like with preconception, it's preparing it, it's like clearing it out, what no longer serves, what is in there that's being held in place, what memory, what, like, it can be very deep or very like shallow, and it can be a journey into like a meditative process. It can look a lot of ways, and the way I do womb healing is very intuitive. So it will be a journey based on exactly what that person needs in exactly that right moment. So it's like taking you through a meditation, taking you through different sections of your womb, different gates. That, yeah, I can go on and on.
But it's amazing. It sounds like incredible. Like, I mean, I've had the womb hire experience, but I mean, I am a nutritionist, and I do teach women how to eat to their cycle and understand their hormones. But you teach in such a different, like a spirit, a whole nother level, like a whole nother spiritual level, and unlocking the trauma and everything. Like that is something that, you know, I would, if I had a client, like I would need to like refer them on to someone to help unlock that part, to help that kind of healing, because there's all different sorts of like inflammation within the body due to that. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, about the infertility, though, I know this is a big one for you. Do you help because you've helped yourself? So obviously
Yes.
your teachings of your own practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but what is the biggest challenges that you've seen with that with women, and how have you helped a lot of women with that? After the 9 years of being in this practice, what have you realized that is going to be the biggest thing that'll help those women, that like if you're talking to someone right now who is just over it, she's just been trying for so long and she just wants to give up and she's just feeling so flat, like how do you think like you could help the first steps to getting her to feeling better, you know?
Well, there's probably two things that I would go to straight away. And it's epigenetics, so it's your environment and your genetic profile, and also the relationships in your life. So your relationship to food, your relationship to your body, your relationship to pleasure, your relationship to your, like all the inner workings of your body. That's where I go first. And I see a lot of and also menstrual cycle, like understanding that to a deeper level, because I see women all the time, and they're like, oh, I they put me on IVF, and I'm like, I just say to them, I'm like, okay, so how long is your cycle? What else is going on in your life? And they're like, oh yeah, it's like 26 days. And I'm like, what? They're just that, like, this IVF, right? It's just, yeah, it just boggles me when I hear that, because I'm like, they're just literally taking your money and not even exploring all the other things that are going on in your life, not only energetically, but also physically. And like you said, with the nutrition and the hormones, it's like, what else is going on energetically that's blocking this? Like, then no one's looking at that, right? And that's why you said, it's like, the pieces I bring is like the spiritual and energetic way that is beyond what the medical system will look at, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of diagnosing and prescribing. Yeah. Um, so yeah,
And also, sorry to
keep
interrupt
going.
you, but
Yep, no, you go.
I also saw a lady on my feed. I'm not working with her at the moment, but I saw her. I've seen her. She's been in a TTC for a little while, trying to conceive, and she put up on her story that the doctors think like her cervix is too small, and so they want to do all these, like, this surgery and all these things. And I'm like, whoa. In that particular moment, the first thing I would be thinking of is like, okay, referral to a somatic sexologist to open the cervix, to do cervix de-armoring. None of that's talked about, right? They're just like, how can we force it open? How can we make it different?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just like, oh, it just
Yeah.
gives me goosebumps, because I just feel for that lady. She's like gone through so much, and they're, telling her that again, she's wrong, right? She's a failure, because that's what it feels like, right? When you're trying to conceive and you're not successful each month, it's like you're a failure. And actually, what I've also noticed is in that journey, right? Like, people are trying, and they're kind of going through it alone, because when you're pregnant, there's so many different people you can go and see. But when you're trying to conceive, it's really only the medical people that are just like, what can I force? How can I pay for, like, this surgery or this thing or whatever? And there's like energetic and coaching and spiritual work. And that's where I come in, because I'm committed to, like, let's look at the whole picture. Let's look at all the other things. how can we refer you to something more holistic, like a sexologist that are actually going to open your cervix in a pleasurable way. You're going to learn about yourself and your cervix in a whole new way. And how much more empowering is that going to be when you actually have birth and you actually understand the cervix a fuckload more?
It's so, yeah, I wish we could all, like, there was more opportunity for the practitioners to all work together and bounce off each other, because like not everyone knows all. And I know that that's something that I got brought up with too, always believing in my doctors, always being like, they know everything, but you can only know so much and you can only specialize in certain areas. And I think, I can definitely attest to this, like feeling back in the day, like if someone had told me this stuff and my doctor's saying, no, don't do that, you kind of go, oh, well, it must be a bit woo woo, and it's not like real. So you're believing this other side of it, but you're forgetting that how powerful the mind is and how much that is actually causing inflammation in your body. And no, that's not talked about in the professional world enough. If you're on the right path, if you're on the right page on social media, you know what I mean, you might see it, but even then it depends on your algorithm and stuff. So it's just these women, it is frustrating, and it's sad. It's really sad because, as you said, it feels that shame, like it's like, damn, like it's me. But when you can work with someone that actually gets you to understand your body and gets you to work with your body, and then you do it, then you get the empowerment of going, I did that. It's like you fixed yourself within 4 months. You're like, I did that. It wasn't through a surgery. It wasn't through a medication. Like, I did that. That's what I love.
Yeah. And I think that just on that, it's like, not only you're empowering the women to do it themselves, but you get to a place, and this is what I work with women, is that you get to a place in the trying to conceive journey, and you actually get to that place where you're so surrendered in the divine timing, very woo woo, that it's no longer about you. Right? It's no longer about you. It's about the source, God, whatever you want to call it. It's like about that divine timing, and it's about what else, and knowing that you have done what you can, and you've explored and you felt really good about it, and that it will happen when it happens, rather than going down the path of, I need to fix it, I need to do this, I'm wrong, I'm a failure, I need to do this. It's like, no, how can you be supported in a way that's going to empower you? Like you said, how are you going to be empowered in a way that you're non-attached to the outcome? Right?
It feels different.
I know it sucks, and I've been there, because I'm like, what else do I need to do? What else in the work do I need to do?
And I'm so that person. Well, I was that person too, not with like to fall pregnant, but with other things, like, when I had my autoimmune diagnosis and things like that, I was like, what do I need to do to fix it? And I was always trying to find something to fix it. I had to find the new diet, the new product, the new medication, like I was always looking for something to fix it. But I was never leaning into what you were saying, like leaning into trusting my body, leaning into believing in my body again, that it knows how to heal itself. We're always trying to fix our bodies, but we're just forgetting that our bodies are bloody clever. Like, they're smart, like they can fix themselves. We just got to believe in it. And that's a lot of what I do with like the fasting, because it's all like kind of like believing that you're giving your body enough time to do the healing before you then eat again. You know what I mean? So that's where I bring that in a lot. But I just love everything you're saying. It's so empowering for women. And I know if anyone's listening and they're going through any struggles of trying to fall pregnant, I don't know personally from what that feels like. I could only imagine. And I just hope that this conversation has like kind of given them some power and been like, I'm gonna start to do the workings now. I'm gonna start trying it a different way, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so I
Yeah.
love
And that's like the feedback that I hear from women when they start working with me is like, this is really different to what I've done before. Like I'm used to going and fixing it, right? I'm used to going in a masculine way. And this is like a totally different energetic way.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's an honor though, because it is that reclamation of the feminine wisdom. And it applies not only to the pregnancy, but also other creations in our life and our business. And like, obviously also being a business owner. And
yeah,
it's yeah, it's also a journey of surrendering and trusting and birthing new creations, right? So we're not only just creating babies, but we're also creating all the other things that we have in the world and that we're launching and that we're offering as a contribution. So it's also trusting and surrendering that those particular offerings and experiences are going to come through us. And same thing. It's like, how much more can I trust my body? How much more can I clear and cleanse my womb space so I'm ready for more abundance, more money, more clients, all the things? It's like it's all held in that womb. It's all held in the body. So yeah, it's a huge thing. Yeah.
yeah. It was just as you were saying that, I was just like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, even being a business owner as a woman too, it's like I know there's someone out there that calls it, I can't remember who it is, but they call it rushing women's syndrome.
Yes. Keep
I actually
going.
have the book. You have the book. I was going to say, I was like, I know that someone, yes, I haven't read it yet, but I keep getting referred to this all the time and hearing about it.
Yes. So this book with Dr. Libby Weaver is
Yeah.
the author. I mean, it's quite scientific if
Yeah.
that's your style. You'd probably froth because you're like into nutrition and all the things. So and
Yeah.
hormones and stuff. So she goes very deeply into hormones and all the things. So it's actually, yeah, it's something that a lot of women have, and especially in the masculine culture that we have. So a lot of like the women that I work with, it's also rewiring that. It's us also moving from masculine to feminine and moving from force to flow.
Mm.
That's why that's why my Instagram name is the Flow Fairy.
Yeah. I love that. I love it.
It's actually not about menstrual cycle flow. It's actually about all kinds of flow.
Yeah.
And our family business is called the Flow Formula, and my partner actually wrote a book on flow called the Flow Formula as well. So we have a sign at the back, flow.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
Yeah. So
cool. That's
we're
awesome.
all
Got the
about the
whole
flow.
family on board.
Yeah, yeah, we're all about the flow in different ways,
Yeah.
but it definitely applies to that feminine reclamation. I just keep going back to it, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's moving from the masculine need to do everything, which is a rushing women syndrome. It's moving from the rushing women syndrome to actually doing less and being more.
Yeah.
Um,
I teach a
yeah.
lot of that with like the week leading up to the period, because that's when we're building progesterone a lot. So this is like the science
Yes.
behind it. And we've just got to try to
Yeah.
nurture progesterone. Progesterone hates stress. Progesterone loves high carbs, and it wants you to chill. And that
Or
is
and
the hard,
analyze and
yeah,
analyze.
analyze. And that and not like,
Sit
yeah,
back and look at what has happened and what is not going right.
yeah. And that is one of the hardest things, I think, to teach women, because it's like women struggle to slow down. Like I know for myself, but you don't realize how common we all are. When I'm teaching like other women, I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're struggling to just relax and just be in the moment as well. Like that is the biggest thing. A lot of women just go, I can't slow down, because if I slow down, then things won't happen or things will stop moving. And that is like the biggest fear. And it's trying to keep up with that masculine energy. But if you don't, that's when the hormones are going to send you messages, the messages, and when they're going to
Yeah.
be knocking on the door like, hey, you forgot about us. So
I think like on that is um like understanding that the pre-ovulation and the ovulation phases, so the maiden and the mother, are the masculine energy. So it's like planning out your month so you're doing more in that time,
yeah.
and actually planning out your month so you're being more in the other time, in the feminine essence phase.
Mm.
Yeah, so like you were saying, it's like to actually listen to the hormones, but actually also plan for them.
That is the biggest thing I've had to learn in my business and just in life in general is like I was never like a big planner, but then I always came to that week before and still kept doing, instead of just being. And I
Yeah,
was like, yeah, so now I plan out the months and it works so much more smoothly. But yeah, it's just a big game changer. And it's amazing how, and you hear it time and time again, but when you stop and you actually stop doing and you just start being, things actually start to happen more. And then you hear it so much and no one ever believes it. But when you try it, it happens. It just happens. It's so
yeah.
true.
And it's like when, you know, with the fertilizing the egg, right?
Yeah.
The female egg will wait for the exact perfect sperm that is going to create the perfect genetic blueprint for
Yeah.
the rest of the lineage that's going to continue. So it's like that. It's like, where am I waiting as the egg and waiting for that perfect thing to come through? And like you said, when you're sitting in that feminine, when you're sitting in the more of the feminine essence, then you can actually receive that perfect next thing.
It's so frustrating, isn't it? That it's like, it's actually when you just chill and not do, that's when stuff happens. But we're like, no, we need to do, like, we need to fix, as we we're saying, we
Yeah.
need to fix it. We need to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. Well, you're still in the 4-week program. You've got 2 weeks left. So what's
Yeah.
next? What's coming up next for
So
you?
tonight is maiden. So I
Yep.
am day 8. So that will be maiden, and next week is ovulation.
Yep.
And so we've already been through Wise Wild Woman and Crone last week. So that was really cool. And what my intention of the program is, I am really I'm going deep, and I'm also providing additional meditations for people each week. So even last week with the menstruation, I went really deep and provided a really private blood ritual meditation for them, so they can actually connect to their blood in a different way. And yeah, my intention is to have it as a pre-recorded evergreen kind of program once I've really dived deep into it, because it's something that I've been teaching for a long time. So I'm like, you know what, I'm just it's
Yep.
not that I'm repeating myself, like I love teaching it. It's just about how can I
Make it more
reach
accessible.
more,
Yeah.
and yeah, reach more and impact more. And then be able to focus on the preconception work that I'm doing rather than the cycle teaching, which is amazing. But with the preconception stuff, the first thing I'll say is you need to go through this.
Yeah.
You need to go through this portal of information and really understand your cycle on an energetic and spiritual level, rather than
The
I
sign.
ovulate on day 14 and that's when I've got to take my temperature and do this
Yeah.
thing and blah blah blah, and then inject the thing and then
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
Yes. I love
that would
that.
be, yeah, that's my intention for it, is like to really, I've given all of myself in these 4 weeks, and doing it in a way that's going to be something that will live on from that point. So because I have been teaching it for several years now, and even when I get on a call with people, or a client call is like, what day are you in your cycle? Because that will determine how the coaching call is going to go, right? So if they're like, if they're
It's
wise
true.
wild woman, we're going to be talking about what's working and what's not working.
Yeah. It's true.
Whereas if they're ovulating, it's like, what, where are you being seen? What's your events plan this week? Like where's your outward energy going? Like all the action can be taken in this week. So I'll give you heaps of tasks.
Yeah.
It's actually being so on point with them as well, that I can provide the best outcome and the best results, because it's going to accelerate their business if they're doing the I won't say right or wrong, but if they're doing the suggested things at the suggested time of month, it's going to provide them more expansion in their business. So, and not only in their business, but also in their life and their creations and their possibly reproduction creations as well.
Yeah. Well, hormones are kind of like superpowers, and you just have to learn how to harness them correctly. That's what it is.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, absolutely. I think that what you provide with the hormonal insights is just so deep and beautiful, that we're really exploring the biology on a different way and how it's reacting to the environment. So that's a really key thing to understand as well.
Yeah. Well, that sounds amazing. So I'll leave all the links in the show notes below if anyone wants to
Yes.
reach out to you. So do you have another 4-week program coming up or anything? How else can people get in touch with you, I guess, or work with you?
Yeah. So when I'll put the link in the show notes, and that will be to the 4-week program.
Yep.
And when it's over, so you can still join in live, as if this is going on live soon.
Yes.
Yeah, you can still join us live, or you can join the evergreen. So you actually can do all the processes. You can do all the replays. You can do all the meditations, in your own time and in your own space. And I think that's a really big thing for mums as well, is that we have that space to do it. Like at night when the kids have gone to bed, it's like really exploring. And even with the clients that are in the program at the moment, it's like, I'm doing this for the purpose of them to be able to go back to that certain week when they're in that. So I've got one lady who is, she was the flip side. So she ovulated when we went menstruating. There's a number of us that were menstruating at the same time, but she is opposite. So she'll be watching the recordings of that. She'll be doing does that make sense? It's like, I want you to be able to go back to that when you're in that phase as wild woman. I want you to go back to that meditation. I want you to go back to it when you're actually in it, because that feels totally different on an embodied level. And that's what I'm all about, is that embodiment. That's why I'm like, I'm not going to teach it if I'm not in that phase. Like,
it makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Like, I love it. So I'll leave those links in the show notes so that people can reach out to you if needed, or even just follow you on Instagram. I know I follow you on Instagram. I love what you teach, and I just know it's going to help a lot of women. So I'm so thankful that you came on today. So thank you so much.
Okay.
And I'll talk to you all in the next episode, I guess.